economic stories, including if you get behind in your mortgage payment, can you just rent your own house? That's next. And welcome back to Coast to Coast. Here he is for the hour, Gerald Celente. Trendsresearch.com is his website. Gerald, let's start with Goldman Sachs. They made some money, didn't they?
Yeah, they certainly did. I wonder how they did it. It was quite miraculous. Could it be the $13 billion that we, the taxpayer, gave Goldman Sachs and to cover their bad bets that they made with AIG? Or could it be the $10 billion that they got when they turned instantly from an investment bank to a bank holding company and tapping into all of the TARP funds, much of which we don't know, the Federal Reserve won't tell us how much they've been taking? Could it be that? Or could it be the $14 million in taxes that they paid? Could you imagine a company like Goldman Sachs that in 2008 paid out $10 billion in compensation and benefits, and the same year it made profits of more than $2 billion, paid a mere $14 million in taxes? You think the fix is in, George?
Maybe very closely, Gerald, very closely indeed. And these bonuses, they're going to give them out. That's a lot of money per person.
A lot of money per person. Who makes that kind of money, and what are they making it for? They're making it by doing these. I love it. They call it, exotic financial instruments. Credit default swaps, collateralized debt obligations. How about scams, and schemes? I say this often. I'm of Italian descent. And if the people on Wall Street, their names in playing these kind of games, these ruthless games that are robbing people of their pensions and their retirements and losing their homes, if their names were Celente, Caruso, Puccini, Abatelli, Mondavi, boy, would they be screaming mafia. But you're not allowed to call the white shoe boys crooks and criminals. And this is criminal activity that's going on right before our eyes. Look at the names involved in the Goldman Sachs gang. We had, under the Bush administration, who was the U.S. Treasury Secretary?
Paulson.
Where was he from?
Goldman Sachs.
And where was Robert Rubin?
Goldman Sachs.
Under Clinton. And now who's the fella now with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, running it for our country? Where is he from, Gary Gensler? Goldman Sachs.
Uh-huh.
And who's the big player in this whole cap and trade scheme that they pushed through? They pushed through the Obama administration. This thing is being pushed through for years by Goldman Sachs. And they own percentages in the companies that'll be buying and selling the emission trade.
It is dramatic, Gerald, how quickly this is all happening, these schemes. And I want to get your take on this health plan that could occur in some form or fashion where they are going to force businesses to provide health insurance. And these individuals who may refuse to contribute or buy it, they're going to get penalized too. How can they do this?
Well, how can they do it? It's what we've been saying for quite some time now. The merger between state and corporate powers, as we can clearly see by all of the stimulus, buyouts, bailouts, etc., it's called the merger of state and corporate powers, as Mussolini defined it, as fascism. We, the people, are losing our democratic rights. We're being told what to do, when to do it, how to do it, who to bail out, who to save, and this is all they're doing to keep this thing afloat as they run out of the schemes of printing money, is just going back to the taxpayer and robbing the taxpayer blind. And it's not, they love to point out, as they're doing now with this health care plan, well, we'll tax millionaires 5.4%. Well, it was 3% just a week or two ago. But then when you really look at what's going on here, a millionaire, it's a lot of money, but it's not what it used to be. And I know doesn't sound great to somebody who doesn't have a job.
Mm-hmm.
But the real fact is that the GAO reported that roughly 2/3 of all corporations operating in the U.S. paid no taxes at all. And it's not the kind of corporations like the Trends Research Institute or the small corporations in most states and businesses. It's these companies that they've given these offshore revenue breaks to, where they defer taxes on those revenues indefinitely. And so this is the game that's going on. The too big to fails, it's like Goldman Sachs paying $14 million in taxes as they're giving away billions and billions of dollars in bonuses. So they're robbing the little people to keep the big guys afloat.
Now, what do you think of this proposed homeowner plan where if people fall behind in payments, in order to avoid eviction, they might be able to rent their homes instead, and it looks like the government might step in and give them a portion of that money to keep renting?
Well, this was a plan that was floated about 2 years ago by the Center for Economic Policy Research in Washington. On the basis of what they're saying, the center's plan, when it was first raised, makes sense. I mean, because we all know what's going on with these foreclosed homes.
Sure.
Being boarded up. If this could be a win-win situation. It could be a win-win situation if the banks eat their losses and the homeowner also understands that they're not out in the street and they have a place to sleep and a place to live, and it's guaranteed.
But they're not going to own. They're not going to own it.
We shouldn't be on the hook for this deal, and that's when the game changes.
That's the problem. The taxpayers are on the hook for all of this, and I have finally realized what this all is. The whole thing is like a Robin Hood movie where they're robbing from one to pay for the other. And I'm not sure it's going to work, Gerald.
Well, it's not, and that's why we're seeing the beginning with these tax parties, the Tea Parties. We saw them again this 4th of July. The mainstream media laughs at them. President Obama, when the first Tea Parties came in April, he said that, quote, they were unhealthy. Could you imagine that? People protesting their rights not to pay more taxes, and the president says they're unhealthy. This was a historic movement. It is just the beginning. It caused the first revolution, and it's going to be the spark that sets the second revolution. The only way they're getting us they're saving this schemes from happening, to keep them going, is to keep taxing the people. The money machine is going to be, they're going to have to stop it soon. They're going to keep this scheme going by taxing.
What's amazing, too, is a lot of the major corporations that normally would have been opposed to the administration, they're jumping into bed with them.
Because they're going to get a sweetheart deal out of it. It always happens like that, and that's why they're jumping in, just as they did with this cap and trade. So everybody's going to get a piece of the action. The little people will suffer. And again, this whole tax, by the way, we've been doing a lot of work in this area in the terms of, what has really killed this country, of course, as we know. We no longer have a manufacturing base. It was offshore.
Hold on with that right there, Gerald. We'll come back, talk more about this, and also take phone calls with you next on Coast to Coast AM. Fascinating